What good are you if you're telling God's holy people in a church that they got nothing to worry about? Because they're going to be somehow raptured before the second coming. Well, how does that work? Is there a third coming? Whatever.
God is your master. The Bible is your textbook. The world is your classroom. And the people are your classmates.
Okay, so little warning. Don't watch this video. Don't watch this video unless you want to have a nightmare, be upset. I don't know. Something will happen. I'm pretty convinced of that. You see that right there? You see that picture behind me? It's of a thunder cloud in the desert. It's red. And that reminds me every day of the storm that the Antichrist is going to bring. And when I come down here and I sit and I see that, it reminds me that it doesn't matter whether I'm being lazy and watching a movie or eating too much ice cream or, having lunch with a friend or going out and shooting or preparing. It reminds me that a storm is coming. So let me tell you a little story. You're going to want to hear this if you want to know the truth. And it's very simple. I set out in life, while most people are trying to make it through traffic and raise their kids and fighting with their ex and living in relationships that they don't want to live in, I'm figuring out how the world's going to end, man. Because I want to be ready for it and I want to help if I can. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay down on the floor something very easy for you to pick up that cost me a lot to really see. Okay? First, let's understand something. Well, no, I'll save that for another time. But I wanted to know whether or not the Antichrist was a figurative thing or a literal individual, right? That's the vaguest terms possible. I wasn't seeking to know the Antichrist's name or who it was, or I just wanted to let's start there, right? Because you hear people say all kinds of stuff. Well, the Antichrist is an era of time. The Antichrist is a machine. The Antichrist is a social security number. The Antichrist is an electronic device, right? It's an item, or it's a phase, or it's a concept, or it's a group. Well, first you go to the Bible, you determine, that the Bible is very specific, even in regards to the term that there is an Antichrist, and there are even Antichrists, like smaller ones, right? But in wrestling with this, you see, the first thing we have to do is go to the textbook that is provided for us. Now, follow me here, okay? So what I did was I really wanted some insight. I really wanted to wrestle with this. And the Bible teaches that any who lack wisdom, let him ask of God, and he'll grant wisdom. Now understand, folks, that comes with a lot of limitations. I am not an apostle. I am not a prophet. They are not around. I'll create videos for that. And anybody who tells you they are, and anybody who says they are, just run away from them. Just go the opposite direction. So I wanted to show the Lord how serious I was. I wanted to really put myself in a position of really seeking the answer. And the truth of the matter is, I did a lot of damage to myself for, I guess, technically no reason. So what I did was I committed to fast. And when I say fast, I mean literally go without food, any type of food. There's nothing that went into my mouth except for water. Not lemon juice with water, not vitamins, not Just don't even ask the questions. I'm just telling you, literally the only thing I consumed was water, so that my body got to a point where it literally ate itself, and it's very painful. And the longest I've ever done, just kind of a side note, the longest I've ever done that was 21 days. Again, only water. I've done plenty of 1 days, plenty of 3 days, plenty of 7 days, just for various reasons, you know. I mean, there are health benefits to it and whatnot. But on this specific, at this specific time, I think the reason kind of why I really sought this answer was because business-wise, I was doing good. I'm not the kind of individual that needs a yacht or a helicopter. I mean, I've learned the value of not that less is more. I've learned that value. But the point is that I got to a point in life and I said, look, okay, I need to hone down. Now I've kind of, made a living for myself, thank the Lord. I need to really determine what's going to happen here. And so that first question came up: is the Antichrist a thing, or is it a literal individual? Because once I know that, you see, then I know what to watch for, and I can start studying and take that further on, right? So, okay, so I fasted for, I was committed to 21 days, and it's very painful, and at least for me it was, and sometimes you just feel like you're going to die. Things shut off, and things stop working, and you start going to the bathroom infrequently and less, and you get dizzy and you sleep at odd hours, and I really don't suggest it. I really suggest you start off slow and small and build up from there. Okay, that said, the question that I wanted answered was very simple, and it was very specific. Was the Antichrist a figurative thing or a literal individual? It's a lot of work for that one question, but I'm a pretty intense individual when it comes to knowing the Bible and knowing the answer. And even then, trust me, I recognize I could be wrong, right? But I think the Bible spelt it out here. So let me get into this for you. During that time, what I do is I make sure that while I'm fasting is that I eat plenty of Bible. I read a lot all day long, as much as I can. I'll turn on the little Bible app even, and I'll listen to the Bible app read it to me. So and I'll fall asleep to it and I'll wake up to it. One night on day 18, it was night 18, right? I was in Reno, Nevada at a small hotel, and I was traveling to Arizona from North Idaho. And I was traveling, and I just had to stop. I was just weak, and I only had a few hours in me. And literally I was getting to a point where my head was leaning off to the side because I just didn't want to exert the energy to hold it up all the way, right? And so I go to this hotel room. I check into the hotel room. I walk over. I brush my teeth. I lay down, and I'm exhausted, man. You don't believe when you don't have food in you how much like taking a shower takes out of you. And so I brushed my teeth and I laid down, and I went to the book of Daniel because where else better to study about the Antichrist than to study about the book that speaks of the Antichrist. And so I went to Daniel chapter 7, and this is day 18, right? Listen to this. Remember my question. So I close my eyes and I'm listening to Daniel, and I'm really digesting every word and really thinking, because remember something, you guys, God already gave you the book. So I want you to picture something. If you're the student that comes storming into class, and people do this all the time, you come storming into class and you sit down and you go, teacher, and you raise your hand and you go, I want this answer. And the teacher looks over at you and he points at the book, points at the textbook. And you don't want to read the textbook, right? Forget the textbook. I'm not going to read the textbook. Give me this answer. And you ask him, what about this here in life? And he says, read the textbook. And he says, well, what about that over there? He says, read the textbook, right? I don't know what it is. maybe you don't, maybe subconsciously that student doesn't really want the answer. There's a lot there, but they don't read the textbook. And you know what they end up doing? They end up ridiculing the teacher. Well, you're a bad teacher. You don't give me any answers. If you're asking God a bunch of questions and you don't go to the textbook that he provided, shame on you. You are way out of line. And don't think for a moment that you're going to budge that teacher to give you a little extra information outside of the textbook that he already provided for you. You should be ashamed of yourself. Because then what people like that will do is they go, well, I asked God and God didn't give me the answer. You know what? Read the book. Anyway, whatever. I'm sitting there listening to Daniel because I don't want to be that guy, right? I want to be a good student. And so I'm listening to Daniel, and so I found the answer in Daniel concerning my question. Daniel chapter 7, I'm going to get to the answer for you real fast. I encourage you to go and read this for yourself. He tells you that he has a vision. Come to find out, for him, the vision was about the end of the world and what was going to take place. He dreams of 4 beasts. The first beast in verse 4 is like a lion. I'm going to move on. The second beast looked like a bear. I'm going to move on. The third beast looked like a leopard. Now, the fourth beast, he adds this in there. He says, the fourth beast was terrifying and frightening and very powerful. Now, understand, he's describing his dream the best that he can. If you ever tried to describe a dream to people, it's not the easiest thing, right? Notice that, and this is one of the beautiful things about the Bible. Daniel is an actual individual telling you, he's writing it down for you. He's writing it down for you. God gave him the dream for you. So he says, the fourth beast was terrifying and frightening and very powerful, right? And he goes on to describe this fourth beast. It had large iron teeth. I was thinking about a joke, never mind. It crushed and devoured its victims and trampled underfoot whatever was left. So this fourth beast, he's fixated on this fourth. He talks about 3, fixates on the fourth. It was different from all the former beasts. And then listen to what he throws in there in verse 7. He says, and it had 10 horns. So he's talking about this terrifying. Remember, there's 3 beasts. He talks about the fourth. And then he points out that the fourth, by the way, has these 10 horns. And then he goes on, and listen to this. While I was thinking about the horns, right, because he's watching this vision, and he sees this terrifying beast that has these 10 horns, and he's noticing these 10 horns, and he says, while I was thinking about the horns, there before me was another horn. Okay, so you got 10, and then you got 1. A little one which came up among them. So you got the 10 horns, and then this little horn comes up among them, and and uprooted 3 of the first. So you got 10 horns, right? And this little horn comes up and it uproots 3 of those. Why? What does that mean? I don't know. But whatever the case is, he's pointing out to you what's happening in this dream. This horn had eyes like the eyes of a human being and a mouth that spoke boastfully. Now, understand something. You know that the vision is, he tells you what he was dreaming of. He was dreaming of a beast with 10 horns, and this horn had eyes, the little one that comes up, and a mouth. Okay, now we know that that's just intrinsically not true. Go find a horn on anything. You don't see it with eyes. You don't see it have a mouth and speak boastfully about God. So Daniel has seen and known enough, and it's pretty obvious that this horn is something other than a horn that has eyes and a mouth, right? So understand something. In verse 15, listen to what he says. He says, I, Daniel, was troubled in spirit, and the visions that passed through my mind disturbed me. So he's seeing this and he's just bothered by it. I approached one of those standing there. It was basically one of the angels. He approaches one of those standing there, and I asked him the meaning of all of this. This is so important, right? What Daniel saw, he tells you about, and it bothers him, and he doesn't know the answer. If he did, he wouldn't have to ask for the meaning. But he sees one of the angels, and he goes to the angel, and he says, I approached one of those standing there, and I asked him, what is the meaning of all this? Like, help me out. Because understand, you guys, if he would have just stopped there, and said, and there's the dream, see you guys later, logging out, right? If he would have just stopped there and be like, okay, horn, 10 horns, horn uproots 3, mouth, eyes, all right, whatever. I guess there's a part B, and you wait for part B, right? Interesting, intriguing, bothers him. No, he goes on. He says, listen to this. Daniel's bothered by it. Daniel's a prophet. This comes from God. It's not like me, just some Bible student trying to learn everything I can and figure it out. I approached one of those standing there and asked him all the meaning of this. So he told me and gave me the interpretation of these things. Here comes the answer. You see, these little verses in the Bible that you just read over and you don't stop and think about it, those are the ones that set up the big verses. Daniel is confused. He has the dream. He goes to an angel. He says, I don't know what this means. Help me out, right? And the angel helps him out. So he told me and gave me the interpretation of the things. And I'm quoting the angel. The 4 great beasts are 4 kings that will rise from the earth. Kings, individuals, not concepts, not technology. But the holy people of the Most High will receive the kingdom and will possess it forever. Yes, forever. So he gives them a summation. The four beasts are 4 kings. Right? But he goes on. Look, Daniel's not happy with this. Would you be happy with that? Daniel's like, no, listen, I appreciate it, but help me out. Watch this. Then I wanted to know the meaning of the 4th beast, which was different from all the others and most terrifying, with its iron teeth and bronze claws. And he goes on, I also wanted to know about the 10 horns. And he goes, and before, and he asks, and the horn that looked up, that was more imposing than the others, and that had eyes and a mouth that spoke boastfully. And he tells him, as I watched, listen to this, verse 21, as I watched, this horn, being the little one, was waging war against the holy people and defeating them. Well, who's the holy people? If you've accepted Christ, you're considered holy, my friend. I've accepted Christ. Even with all my flaws, guess what? I'm holy. Not because I'm, perfect, but because he makes me holy. I'll read it again, verse 21. As I watched, this horn was waging war against the holy people and defeating them until the Ancient of Days comes. So what does that mean? The horn, whoever it is, wages war against God's people until God, the Ancient of Days, comes and pronounces judgment in favor of the holy people. So guess what's coming, folks? Of the Most High, and the time comes when they possess the kingdom. So he goes on. Verse 23, watch this. So he has the dream. He's bothered by the dream, right? He starts inquiring of the angel. The angel gives him a summation. But he's not happy with that. So he gets even further. What about this little horn? Pretty weird. Help me out. And he tells him what it did, right? Verse 23. He gave me this explanation. The 4th beast is a 4th kingdom that will appear on the earth. This is an interpretation. This is a clarification. This is an explanation. This is not another riddle to unsolve or to solve, right? To figure out. It's not a puzzle. He doesn't answer He doesn't give him the guy has a question. He doesn't give him more confusion. The fourth beast is the fourth kingdom that will appear on earth. It will be different from all the other kingdoms. Listen to this, and will devour the whole earth. Trampling it down and crushing it. I'm in the U.S. That doesn't sound good for me. Where are you at? Taiwan? Russia? China? Are you watching this video and you're not supposed to be? Where are you? You're in Europe? Kingdom's coming. The fourth one, the angel gives you a very specific, very basic, very simple explanation. Now watch this. The 10 horns are 10 kings who will come from this kingdom. After them, remember the little horn? Another king will rise, different from the earlier ones. Remember, the 10 horns didn't have mouth, didn't have eyes. Different from the earlier ones. Let me read this again. The 10 horns are 10 kings who will come from this kingdom. After them, another king will arise, different from the earlier ones. He will subdue 3 kings. He will speak again, not a concept, not a group of people. He will speak against the Most High and oppress his holy people. My thoughts go to those believers that think they won't be around when this happens. I'm going to do a video. Watch for it. It's called, I don't know if I should call it the sleeping brethren or the useless brethren, or should I call it the brethren who are sleeping and are therefore useless. Let me explain something. If you're one of those believers out there teaching that you ain't going to see, or believers aren't going to see the Antichrist, you are completely out of sorts with Daniel. You are completely out of sorts with this angel who very simply tells you the explanation. And you should be ashamed of yourself as far as I'm concerned. Because worst case scenario, you should be getting ready for it. If this simple reading is wrong, I don't know what else. I might as well throw the book away because I have no idea, right? The 10 horns are 10 kings who will come from this kingdom. After them, another king will arise, different from the earlier ones. He will subdue 3 kings. He will speak against the Most High and oppress his holy people. Well, I thought they weren't going to be on planet Earth. Well, I guess they will, right? Well, what good are you if you're telling God's holy people in a church that they got nothing to worry about? Because they're going to be somehow raptured before the second coming. Well, how does that work? Is there a third coming? Whatever. I'm just not even want to get into that. It just upsets me. And try to set the time or change the set times. Watch this. The holy people will be delivered into his hands for times and a half time. That's basically 3.5 years. I didn't have to fast for 18 days. God wasn't going to appear out of heaven and give me another dream like he gave it to Daniel. You know what I have? Do you know what we have? Do you know what you have? You have the book. We don't have to go through what Daniel did. In fact, we get to feed off that. We get to see it. Daniel was confused about the dream about the Antichrist. And an angel comes and gives him a simple interpretation, a clarification, an explanation. God is not the author of confusion. God wants his holy people to be prepared. You know why? Because when they go through this, what are they going to be thinking? If God didn't give you the explanation, if he didn't tell you, what would you be thinking in that time? Would you follow the Antichrist? Well, if you didn't have the answers, then yes, you would. If you didn't follow the Antichrist because you just knew that wasn't Jesus, you'd have no hope. It's simple. The cookies are on the bottom shelf. I didn't have to fast for 18 days. The Antichrist is literal. It's real. We can get into how he appears. And is he a human? Is he an alien? Is he a transhuman? I don't know. Is he like half rope? I don't know, right? But we know this. The Antichrist comes from a kingdom that will rise up. And America is going to face this. Your country is going to face this. I'm hoping that America as one country, as one nation, because we believe in a constitution, in a document, not an individual or a group of people, I'm hoping and believing that we'll rise up and not let this happen. Remember, he wages war. Folks, don't read the Bible so sloppily. He wages war. Why? Because not everybody gives in. Are you catching? Are you following me? He wages war because people don't just roll over. It's because they fight. God's holy people aren't going to stand for this. Now, we're going to need the Lord's help. How do you know that? He's going to have to come back to save us. Make sure you send this to your family members who question this. That way, at least they know that the Bible says the Antichrist is a literal individual, and God's people will see it. I believe I'm going to see that. I could be wrong about the time. It's like my friend said, she's very smart. She just started reading the Bible. She says, listen, the reality is you're right? It's not even me that's right. It's the Bible. I just read it. You go read it for yourself. Daniel chapter 7, right? It's not a matter of if or what. It's a matter of when